We're heading to the tail end of the election campaign in West Bengal. Kerala, Assam and Tamil Nadu elections have already concluded. First, there was the left parties that came out and said they were scaling back their campaigning. Rahul Gandhi said he won't be campaigning in West Bengal at all. The BJP mocked that, saying, but when was he campaigning in West Bengal in the first place? But soon after, they announced that they would be scaling back their campaigning as well, and that less than 500 people would be getting together at BJP rallies. Now, this question goes out to every single political party and neta in our country. When COVID cases were surging and you could see the dire prognosis, why did you put votes over lives? Why did you not scale back at that time? And why now pretend to be moralistic and virtuous? Why put the entire onus of COVID appropriate behavior on India's citizens? Have you heard of leaders leading by example?
Massive crowds, no distancing and no mask. Such scenes have been the norm at rallies across Bengal. With 2 more phases of elections to go, political parties have finally decided to cut down on campaigning to control the crowds. BJP has now decided to stop big rallies and public meetings. The party will now organize small outreach programs in open spaces with not more than 500 people. But there is still no stopping the campaign in Bengal. While BJP star netas continue to campaign, Prime Minister Modi too is likely to address 4 rallies in the state on 23rd April. Mamata Banerjee, who also announced that she would restrict her campaigning, held a public meeting in Murshidabad. She will, however, not be campaigning in Kolkata anymore. She will hold just one symbolic public meeting in the city on the last day of campaigning. TMC says she will now restrict her campaign to areas with low case load. The rethink in the BJP comes after Congress ex-president Rahul Gandhi announced his decision to switch off the campaigning through a post on Twitter on Sunday.
देखिए, सबसे पहले राहुल जी ने सार्वजनिक करना चाहिए कि इनकी कितनी रैली लगी थी जो उन्होंने कैंसिल करी। मेरे पास तो कोई लिस्ट नहीं है।
The declaration by 3 top parties and leaders is expected to bring down the number and quantum of congregations in Bengal drastically. As between the 3 leaders for the remaining phases, at least a dozen big events were scheduled. But with just 2 phases remaining and the cases in West Bengal steadily increasing, isn't all of this too little, too late? With Paulomi Saha, Indrajit Kundu, Suryagani Roy and Prema Rajaram in Kolkata, Bureau Report, India Today.
Now, when the election campaign is more or less over, our netas want us to believe that they're very concerned about the pandemic situation, that they want all of us to demonstrate COVID-appropriate behavior and that this is a key national priority. But all these months, while campaigning was going on, while they were out in the heat and dust of the election battlefield, they couldn't care less, because at that time, all that mattered to them was your vote. Is this not hypocrisy of the ultimate kind? In India's gravest hour of crisis, has our political set let the people of India down? Joining me on this broadcast, I want to welcome Sambit Patra, spokesperson for the ruling Bharatiya Janata Party, squaring off against him tonight. Pawan Khera from the Congress, Raghav Chadda from the Aam Aadmi Party, and for a medical perspective, I have Dr. Sanjeev Bagai. I want to go across to Dr. Bagai first. Why is it, sir, that you're so disappointed with India's political class? Why is it that you believe that in India's greatest hour of medical crisis, when our netas should have been leading the way, setting the example, demonstrating COVID-appropriate behavior, they chose to put votes over lives? Dr. Bagai.
Good evening everyone. And whatever I say is completely without bias. We are undergoing perhaps one of the worst public health crises which has been unforeseen. What is the public feeling? Fear, untold anxiety, panic, and all this is not unfounded. There's been explosive transmission. We knew that the second wave is going to come. History has taught us too well. There is mesmerizing confusion, and there are mixed messages from the political leaders. They are the policy makers. And once we start embracing religion and politics, then science is dead and buried. That's bad company for science. We will take years for this recovery, either economically, medically, socially, and the aftermath of the long COVID. What have all these social events which have caused, the so-called super spreaders, be it religious, be it political, be it social, or whatever be the etiology, they are the worst man-made, self-destructing events and disasters which we've self-inflicted on ourselves. Internationally, we know if more than even 10 to 30 people gather together without adequate protection, without adequate distancing and no mask, this is a sheer disaster. These kind of events have an 87% attack rate. And we know that one asymptomatic carrier can infect more than 50,000 in 10 layers in 14 days. And we know also that when you have 1,000+ people in various gatherings who may be asymptomatic carriers, 45% of these gatherings are asymptomatic carriers, there is nothing left to chance then. We have asked for this to happen. And at least as far as Delhi NCR is concerned, after being in medicine for almost 38 years, I'm really sad that what's the cost of a human life? People are struggling. I'm not putting any blame game because that's not the correct way to go forward. We need all hands on deck. We need every possible resource put together, be it from political class, be it from our medical fraternity. We as doctors are tired. It's been 15 months. We live under every minute of perpetual fear. We don't know when we ourselves are going to get infected. More than 800 doctors in India have lost their valuable lives. More than 1.5 lakh of Indians have lost this life. Yes, it is a pandemic. But could we have done it better? If you ask me,
okay.
Yes.
Just the other day, Dr. Patra, the Prime Minister himself, none less, was telling us, ye bheed dekho, look at how big the crowds are. And he's the man who last year was setting the example, telling people to maintain 2 gaz ki duri, to ensure that they showed COVID appropriate behavior. Now, yes, elections are important and the Bengal battle is a big prize for your party given its history. But should you not have put lives over votes? Till the other day, you're telling us, look at the crowds that have come to listen to you, completely oblivious of the fact that each of those congregations was a potential super spreader event. And as those death cases rise, the toll of those deaths, each life lost, each person struggling for oxygen, each person whose family is struggling at this time to find a hospital bed, that, sir, is on you.
See, Rahul, in fact, you are absolutely right that as far as the political class is concerned, responsibility should be one of the most important ornaments of the political class. And our Prime Minister, our party has always exuded, has always shown this kind of responsible behavior, COVID-appropriate behavior. The Prime Minister time and again has appealed for a COVID-appropriate behavior. He himself has followed the behavior. Well, as far as this surge, this second wave is concerned, I would be quite frank to say that the last week or so has been quite dampening. It has been quite, I would say, saddening. And that's the reason as to why there was a latent phase. There was a phase in which we could have been more careful, but we went to the Election Commission. The Election Commission, in fact, took up the matter. All the political parties held meetings with the Election Commission. There was a consensus drawn. And in fact, there were certain Rubicons drawn by the Election Commission. We are also following whatever the Election Commission had to say, number one. Number two, the Prime Minister, remember on 14th of this month, when the meeting of Prime Minister was held, Prime Minister was categorical in seeing to it that there was social distancing, 2 gaj ki duri, there was masking of all those who were participating, all those on the stage. So the protocol, in fact, gradually were in place since 14th of this month, and now we have taken a decision that no huge spread of these rallies, only 500 odd people at best can gather, and that too with all the norms in open spaces. And thirdly and most importantly, I would say that, well, yes,
so that's now. Dr. Patra, what about all of the first few weeks of April, all of March, all of February? In February, cases started going. Have you seen any of your party roadshows or rallies? You're telling us that you are following COVID appropriate behavior when it became completely unavoidable is when you switch gears. Till then, sir, your party is as responsible as any other party for letting the people of India down but not doing what you well knew was the right thing to do.
And I firmly believe that as far as elections are concerned, as you rightly pointed out, they're extremely important. Democratic process is extremely important, and we all follow the guidelines ruled by the Election Commission of India. And when the cases started going up, the Election Commission took a decision. In fact, right from the beginning, there were complaints to Election Commission. Election Commission heard these cases, and whatever was the decision of Election Commission, we had always followed the guidelines. We have never, in fact, jumped the lines. Whatever the Election Commission said, we had obeyed the Election Commission. As far as your suggestion that since February, in fact, the cases have been going up, well, yes, they have been going up. And the first state to report the tsunami of cases in February, when in fact the Chief Minister of the state also became positive, was in Kerala. The biggest number of cases catch there. There we had less rallies. Rather, the rallies of the Congress party and the left parties were quite huge in Kerala. So today, those who are trying to take a high moral ground should be held responsible for the initial surge in these cases as well.
Okay. I have just received information that Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be addressing the nation at 8:45 p.m. tonight. Put out by government sources to us. At 8:45 p.m. tonight, in about 35 minutes from now, Prime Minister Modi, this is much, this is, to my mind, much too late. Many have already suffered. Millions are suffering at this time. All the netas on this panel will find somebody they can call, some connection they can make, some favor they can ask for, and they will get beds. But what about the Aam Aadmi who's suffering because our netas did not do the right thing when they should have done the right thing? To now want to address the nation is several weeks too late. This should have been priority number one, not campaigning in Bengal and elsewhere. Pawan Khera, Sambit Patra makes an important point. While the government must take the large part of the blame, it's not as if your leaders in Kerala, Assam, were following COVID appropriate behavior. If there were roadshows being done by the BJP, there were roadshows being done by the Congress, and therefore Dr. Patra can say, yes, we are guilty, but hey, this is what everybody else did in the heat of the election battlefield.
Rahul, when you are in a position of power, when you are the Prime Minister of India, it is your responsibility to take the first step, to take the initiative, call all political parties, discuss the potential danger of super spreader campaign events, and then together approach the Election Commission. Now, when other political parties wanted the remaining phases of the West Bengal election to be merged, which one party opposed it before the Election Commission? The BJP. Why did they oppose it? Now, these are questions that we need answers for. They can't run away. They can't avoid saying कि सबने किया इसलिए हमने भी किया. आप सत्ता में, अगर आप चुनाव आयोग को हम सबको साथ लेकर चलते, तो करके तो देखते हम आते आपके साथ. We tried our best. The remaining phases should be merged. All other parties, barring the BJP, why? So this is a question which I expect in your show, Dr. Patra, to answer. After all, you can't in the morning request the sadhus to stop the Kumbh Snan, and in the afternoon go and praise the people. Are sahab itni lambi chaudi bheed aa gayi. No, a man who's so dependent on fake applause does not think it's his responsibility to also ensure that he doesn't become a super spreader. He doesn't participate in such events. After all, it's a one-man government. And if that man doesn't act responsibly, neither the government acts responsibly, nor do you expect other political parties to, isolate themselves and act responsibly. It's not possible. Yatha Raja Tatha Praja. No, Raja has to take the initiative. For God's sake, it's too little, too late. I agree with you.
Dr. Shantanu Sen from the Trinamool Congress is also with us, Member of Parliament to the Rajya Sabha. I'm coming back to you, but because I want to hear from Dr. Sen, do you agree that the Trinamool also has to take its part of the blame? The large part of the blame has to go to the central party. They have the maximum majority. They have to lead by example. They failed, undoubtedly. But Mamata Banerjee did big road shows as well. She's walking around violating COVID protocols. You've got big rallies happening. You've got big road shows happening. And it's not as if Mamata Banerjee in any way was a paragon of COVID appropriate behavior.
Yeah, I would come to your point, but before that, let me ask you a question. Do you think that there is any reason to believe that our government of India has taken this COVID sincerely since day one? Do you think so? Because of this Madhya Pradesh horse trading and because of this Namaste Trump, there was a delay of nearly 3 months, which has created a massacre so far the COVID pandemic one is concerned. Again, come to West Bengal election, it is only Mamata Banerjee and Trinamool Congress who gave the proposal to merge the election and raise the question. If in a state like Tamil Nadu, where there are 234 assembly seats, if the election can be held in one phase, why during this COVID session, for 294 assembly seats in West Bengal, the election is to be held in 8 phases? See, the issue is, ideally it was known to all that the Election Commission of India is an autonomous body and it should function autonomously. But in reality, the Election Commission of India has become nothing but a puppet of this BJP government, as it is applicable for ED, CBI or something like that. Even after the fourth phase was over, once again Mamata Banerjee has appealed that let us merge the remaining 3 phases together. But it is the only political party, that is BJP, who oppose this decision, number one. Number two, just see the decision given by this Election Commission of India. They have banned this campaigning from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. Why? Because so many migrant leaders, including our learned Prime Minister, he uses to land at around 10 by helicopter. And after completing his entire day show, he uses to leave our Bengal by 6 or 7 p.m. either by helicopter or by flight. That's why campaigning is allowed for this 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. How does it make any difference? Now, if at 8:40 p.m. this evening, once again, I think some gimmick is waiting for the people of India. As it has been announced yesterday that from 1st of May, all the people will be given vaccine who are above 18. It is ridiculous because they are not able to vaccinate all the people who are above 45 as stated by Government of India. The people are getting refused from the vaccination center. Where from this huge number of vaccine doses will come? Will it come from the heaven or will it come from some other places? How they will provide this huge amount of vaccine? I tell you, this is another election giving as we have witnessed just before the Bihar election, as we are having 3 more phases in West Bengal left, where Trinamool Congress is more powerful. So just and it's nothing but another election stunt and another election
Rahul.
Chalo.
Okay, Raghav Chadda, bear with me for a minute, since there are more panelists who seem to be disliking the government than there are in favor. I'm going to give Dr. Patra one response to try and balance this out, and then I'll come to you. Bear with me, Raghav. Let Dr. Patra respond to all the criticism that's come his way from the doctor, from Pawan Khera, and from the TMC. Dr. Patra.
Rahul, in fact, I would love to debate on any point and every point, and all my panelists from any political party, and Mr. Bagai also has every right to criticize us. But to spread canards over here and misinformation saying that May 1st vaccination drive for all, in fact, is a canard, is something which is a falsity, and the government does not want to vaccinate those above 18 years. It is just an election gimmick. That too coming from a Rajya Sabha member of parliament is something which is criminal. I would say this is criminal. Giving platform to him to spread this kind of canard is criminal, because people would again be carried away. And I'm astonished, for as far as the TMC spokesperson is concerned, for him politics is paramount. He even sees this vaccination drive as a political drive. Of course not. This is a life-saving drive. Please don't criticize vaccination for all drive, number one. Number two, till yesterday Mamata Banerjee was holding road shows. And please show the road shows of Mamata Banerjee. Thousands and lakhs of people thronging the streets of Kolkata. I'm saying that she would not hold any kind of rally in Calcutta. Yesterday she was holding a road show there in Calcutta. So please, this kind of hypocrisy is something which the people of this country are saying. And all I mean to say is, well, yes, we can be criticizing each other, but for God's sake, let's not spread panic in the public. I'm astonished. In fact, Mr. Arvind Kejriwal today has come up with a tweet that there is going to be no oxygen after 2 to 3 hours in Delhi. My folded hands, my request is, please don't do that. You want to abuse the Prime Minister, abuse him privately, call him, talk to him. We will provide you oxygen, but please let not the people of Delhi feel that anyone and everyone who is on oxygen support will die after 2 or 3 hours, because leaders are not supposed to do this. Please fight with the Prime Minister, fight with any one of us on the phone, privately, but not on Twitter.
Raghav Chadda, the charge against the Aam Aadmi Party government in the capital is that instead of playing the role of a constructive ally, you are fear-mongering, you are scaring people because you want to show the Prime Minister and the BJP in bad light. Raghav Chadda.
So, Rahul, give me some time to respond to both the recent allegation regarding the oxygen remarks made by the Honorable Chief Minister as well as these rallies held by BJP leaders across the country. Regarding oxygen supply, let me first read out to you how many hours of oxygen is left in leading hospitals in Delhi. Deen Dayal Upadhyay Hospital has 12 hours of oxygen left. Burari Hospital has 8 hours of oxygen left. Ambedkar Hospital 24 hours. Acharya Bhikshu Hospital 10 to 12 hours. Deep Chandu 8 hours. Sanjay Gandhi Hospital 12 hours. LNJP 12 hours. Baba Saheb Ambedkar 8 hours. BLK 8 hours. Batra Hospital 8 hours. Venkateshwara 4 hours. Gangaram 16 hours. Max Padparganj 8 hours. Balaji 48 hours. Maharaja Agrasen 5 hours. I have read out names of leading hospitals, COVID-19 hospitals in Delhi, and the oxygen in less than 24 hours in most of these is likely to get over, and we haven't received supplies. I understand that there is a shortage. I understand the demand has gone up. I understand the production is limited. However, the way rationalization and sanctions of oxygen are given to each state seems to be completely arbitrary. I appeal to the union government that this is not the time to play politics. I am not naming leaders. I am not naming political parties. All I am trying to say is be charitable, be generous, and give Delhi its due. Even, God forbid, if union ministers and members of parliament of BJP living in Delhi require oxygen tomorrow, we will not be in a position to save their lives. We need oxygen. Please be generous and charitable. This is not the time to play politics. Secondly, on the point of these huge political rallies
now,
that have
Sambit
been
Patra,
held over the last
respond to
few
this
weeks.
point. Once
Now,
again,
let me
let's take it one by one.
I waited for my turn.
Let's take it one by one.
Please permit me.
Okay.
Just permit me to respond on the rally point. Look, the people of India, Rahul, the people of India want COVID management from the BJP leaders, not Chunav management. What we have seen over the last few weeks is that Chunav management has been given precedence over COVID management. Rallies after rallies have held. I have with me a data from the 1st of April till date as to what were the number of cases, how many deaths happened, and on that very day, how many rallies were conducted by the Prime Minister and how many rallies were conducted by the Home Minister. Just to give you one example, 12th of April 2021, 1,60,000 new cases were reported in India. 880 precious Indian lives were lost. Prime Minister held 3 rallies in West Bengal. The Home Minister held 4 rallies in West Bengal. There is a full data that is available. I'll put it out on my social media. I held a press conference a few days ago on this. This shows complete abdication of responsibility. What is required is those who have been elected by the people of India.
So Dr. Patra, if opposition parties, if opposition parties are saying that there is a lack of oxygen, if Uddhav Thackeray is crying himself hoarse in Maharashtra, or if Arvind Kejriwal is doing the same in Delhi, it's because we simply failed to ramp up capacities. The government let its guard down. They thought, okay, the worst is over. There is something exceptional about the Indian people, that we didn't get hit hard. And therefore, even though the Spanish flu second wave was much worse for India than the first, the country collectively, led by the government, because the messaging was, "Aao, bheed aao, dikhao kitni badi rally hai, hum log Bengal jeet rahe hain." That was the priority. Event management, election management was the priority, and not COVID management, which is why all of us together, Dr. Patra, are in the mess where we are, where our friends, our family are calling desperate. Somebody wants remdesivir, somebody wants Tamiflu, somebody wants a hospital bed, somebody wants oxygen, and that is because we simply did not prepare for the mess that now stares us in the face, Dr. Patra.
First on the oxygen supply or scarcity of Delhi, and then on the rallies. Number one, just pull out the press conference of the Honorable Chief Minister of Delhi, Mr. Arvind Kejriwal, day before yesterday, where he categorically mentions that there is no dearth of oxygen, there is no dearth of any medicine, and you all be assured I'm going to take good care of you. And then suddenly yesterday and today, he says that there is dearth of everything. Today, in fact, he has tweeted saying that there is dearth of oxygen and only a few hours of oxygen left. So, in fact, as a Chief Minister, as a leader, he should have anticipated couple of days ago saying that there is no dearth, number one, and suddenly saying that only few hours of oxygen is left. I can assure, and through your good channels, I want to assure the people of Delhi, don't panic. You have your Prime Minister. Well, yes, the Delhi Chief Minister might have given up, but Mr. Narendra Modi ji will provide you with abundant oxygen. Don't have to worry. No one is going to succumb because after 3 hours of... Just a second, I did not shout in the middle of anyone. I'm reassuring the people of Delhi, which is extremely essential. Because we all are receiving frantic calls. What will happen after 4 hours? Are we going to die after 4 hours? I am saying no. Don't you worry, the country will take care of you. No one is going to die after 4 hours because Arvind Kejriwal does not have oxygen. We will provide you with oxygen. Each one of you will be safe. Every hospital... Rahul, you don't allow this kind of patting in the middle. Rahul, this is not the way. Let's try to also be shouting
one second. Time out. I want guests to speak one at a time. If both people speak over each other, then we don't have our viewers understanding anything, and that doesn't serve any purpose. I want to request all our guests, I know tempers are rising, but let's speak one at a time and let's try and find constructive solutions. We want to create awareness, we want to ask the tough questions, but there must be solutions at the end of it. Otherwise this tu mein, Raghav Chadda will get his oxygen, Dr. Patra will get his. I'm worried about people who are going to hospitals. Some friends of mine landed up in hospitals this morning without oxygen. They were desperately waiting in their cars in the hospital parking lot, waiting for a hospital bed. That's how dire the situation is, and our entire political class is to blame for the mess that all of us finds ourselves in. Everyone collectively has let India down. Dr. Patra, complete. We'll go one at a time.
Yeah. Thank you. In fact, as you rightly pointed out, that we have to have constructive suggestions over here rather than negative politics. Number one, as far as oxygen requirement is concerned, well, yes, each state has its oxygen requirement, 12 states in particular. The Prime Minister, in fact, chaired a meeting 4 days ago. As far as oxygen supply is concerned, 110% oxygen production of this country has been increased. We have a green corridor, oxygen expresses carrying tankers to respective states. We have the PSA units in place now. Delhi has one PSA unit to provide them with oxygen. The industrial oxygen has been in fact cut short, and they have been transferred to the medical oxygen, the medical side. So of course the government is doing its best, and please, for God's sake, let's not spread panic amongst the patients in Delhi, because I am also receiving frantic calls from people saying that kya oxygen khatam ho jayega? Bilkul khatam nahi hoga. Please be assured, country will provide you oxygen. We are not going to let you die because oxygen is not there. And lastly, Rahul, since you asked me a question, because of rallies this whole thing spread. Of course, because of rallies, some COVID might have spread it, must have spread it. This is what science is. But empirical data shows that Maharashtra, Kerala and Uttar Pradesh, those states in which mostly the surge took place, Gujarat also, Rajasthan as well, most of these states had no elections. Uttar Pradesh is only having elections for the Panchayat now. But most of these, Kerala in particular, did not have the election initially. In fact, Maharashtra did have no election. So of course we have to be careful. But to say that all this happened only because of the rallies, I believe would be wrong.
Rahul, may I now very briefly respond with your kind permission?
I want to show you this data set put together by the India Today Data Intelligence Unit. I want you to look at it. I knew somebody would say this. In this data set, you will see that the fastest spread of COVID at this moment is in the east of India. This is the R factor, the reproduction factor. What this means is that in states like West Bengal, states like Uttar Pradesh, states like Bihar, the number of people being infected by each person who's been infected is much more than now is the case in states like Maharashtra and in Gujarat, which essentially means that that mess which we saw first in Western India is now moving to the east. It's only a matter of time. That's what and you're a doctor, so you know reproduction rates, you understand how R factors work, and you realize this better than most people on this panel. Pawan Khera, respond to the charge that the opposition is guilty of creating panic, fear-mongering instead of... This is an unmitigated medical crisis. No matter who's in government would have had a tough time. Therefore, instead of trying to help people keep their chips up, you are playing to the gallery by projecting the worst because it suits you politically, not doing what is good for India. Mr. Khera.
Rahul, I wish we were guilty of this. When Rahul Gandhi suggests something, all their ministers come rushing, ridiculing him. When Dr. Manmohan Singh writes a very, very constructive letter to the Prime Minister doesn't show the decency to personally respond to him and gets Dr. Harshvardhan, who's a cruel joke as a health minister on this country, he gets him to write a strange, stupid letter. What kind of, how do you expect the opposition to give them constructive suggestions when this is what they do? I ask them, up till date in 2021, 9,300 metric tons of oxygen has been exported. What was the government to Bangladesh? Weren't we prepared? Didn't we know that we can need this? This is just 4 months in this year. And in 4 months, we exported 9,300 metric tons. And today, we are in a condition where we have to import oxygen. Now, do you blame the opposition for this? Who will you blame for this? This is bad planning. This is highly centralized, individual-centric governance, and that individual is busy in election rallies. Who will we question? Who will we criticize? Who will we attack? It has to be the Prime Minister, obviously. So, he has, if he wants constructive suggestions, Dr. Manmohan Singh gave them. Priyanka Gandhi requested them कि भैया बोर्ड एग्जाम पोस्टपोन कर दो, तब ये जाकर माने. लेकिन उस वक्त हंसी उड़ाएंगे, उस वक्त गालियां देंगे. तो आपको constructive suggestions चाहिए तो सब तैयार बैठे देने.
So how do you respond to this, Dr. Patra, that when the opposition makes the suggestions that it does, first you set the entire IT troll army on them, and now this is a meme on social media, I'm sure you've seen it as well. 24 hours or 48 hours later, you do exactly what the opposition has asked you to, but initially your first instinct is to react them, which shows two things. One, that in this second wave of COVID, the government's reflexes have been slow because you were so obsessed with elections in West Bengal. Instead of being ahead of the curve, and a very dangerous curve at that, you were behind the curve. And then when the opposition makes a suggestion, you mock them, but ultimately do whatever they say, whether it is Rahul, Priyanka, or even Manmohan Singh.
I'll give you the answer. First, on Dr. Manmohan Singh, may he be well very soon, because he's also down with COVID, as is Rahul Gandhi. May they be recovering soon. All I want to say is, well, what was the suggestion of Dr. Manmohan Singh? The good suggestion of Dr. Manmohan Singh was, we want vaccination for all. We want everyone to be vaccinated. And this is what the Bharatiya Janata Party has been trying right from the day one. Our government has been trying. Why was there vaccine hesitancy? There was vaccine hesitancy thanks to all kind of opposition politics. There were opposition leaders who came out and said, well, ye to pani hai, why should we take this vaccine? There were opposition leaders who came out and said, ye to BJP ka vaccine hai, jab hum sarkar mein aayenge, tab hum vaccine lagayenge. And there were 3 sitting chief ministers who came out, held press conferences and doled out letters saying that we would not be using co-vaccines in our states because there's nothing confirmatory about the co-vaccines. That's the reason as to why we had vaccine hesitancy, and all this happened only a couple of weeks ago, not very far-flung in the history, only a couple of weeks ago. Well, as far as this credit toolkit is concerned, that whatever Rahul Gandhi and Priyanka Gandhi said, we are following that. Let me give you a simile, which I have in fact taken from the Twitter, from one of the well-known Twitter handles, and I am trying to give you an example. Supposedly, India-Pakistan match is taking place and India needs only 6 runs out of the last ball, and Virat Kohli is the batsman. Uddhav Thackeray, Rahul Gandhi, Mamata Banerjee, all of them are in the pavilion. All of them shout, we need 6 runs, we need 6 runs. And Kohli hits the 6th. It's 6 in the last ball. So all of them say, oh, it was Uddhav Thackeray because of which Kohli did this. Oh, it was Mamata Banerjee because of whom Kohli did this. It was Rahul Gandhi who should be given the credit for the 6. It is not like that, sir. There are certain things which needs to happen. So it has been done. Vaccination needs to happen. It's not because Rahul Gandhi wants vaccination to happen. So it would be done.
Rahul, may I respond?
Okay, let Raghav Chadha respond to it. Dr. Patra trying to turn adversity into opportunity, hit one out of the park, ek chakka inhone khud maar diya, that you're only saying the obvious, and therefore when the government does it, then later Pawan Khera, you are seeking to take credit for what is very obvious and in any case the next step on the government's roadmap.
May I respond?
Pawan Khera first.
May I respond? Rahul, did Rahul Gandhi ask them to export vaccines when we require in the country? क्या राहुल गांधी ने कहा था, उनसे पूछ के किए थे? हमने तो रोका. हम कह रहे हैं जर्नलिस्ट को आप फ्रंटलाइन वॉरियर्स बनाइए. हम कह रहे हैं कि 45 से नीचे को करिए, तब तो आप लोग हंसी उड़ा रहे थे आप लोग. Now tell me about Sputnik. When Rahul Gandhi said, please give permission to these vaccines, what did Ravi Shankar, Ravi Shameless Prasad come and tell us? What did Smriti Irani come and tell us? कि ये lobbyist बन गए हैं. फिर क्या हुआ 24 घंटे में? Now tell me, did the Prime Minister also take commission? Is he also a lobbyist? No, stop making, cruel jokes on this country. It's a very serious matter. ये मजाक का विषय नहीं है जो आप जिस तरह से मजाक कर रहे हैं. जब भी कोई सुझाव दिया आपने उनकी हंसी उड़ाई या आपने उन पर आरोप लगाया, उसके बाद मान लिया, आप कहते हैं हम तो पहले ही कर रहे थे. अरे पहले ही कर रहे थे तो एक्सपोर्ट क्यों किया वैक्सीन? Why did you export 6.6 crore vaccines? And I must clear here, Covaxin, before the second trial, yes, we did not want the country to be subject to something which had not gone through a second trial. Covaxin, after the second trial, we accepted it. We were absolutely responsible in our conduct, all our chief ministers, all our leaders. And today we are very proud to say that the country has the infrastructure to be an exporter of vaccines, to be an exporter of oxygen. What have you reduced this country to? Immunization का जो experience है, जो infrastructure है इस country में, किसी और देश में नहीं है. आपने उसकी क्या हालत कर दी? पोलियो क्या? राहुल गांधी से पहले आप लोग लाए हो. हर्षवर्धन क्रेडिट लेंगे पोलियो का. ये पोलियो पूरे इस देश ने कितने साल पहले ही इम्यूनाइजेशन की थी, भूल गया. And what have you reduced this country to? No, we want to ask you. For an exporter of vaccines has become an importer of vaccines.
Okay.
Exporter of oxygen has become an importer of oxygen. Why?
Rahul.
Let Raghav Chadha also respond, then we'll go back once. एक second sir, थोड़ा सा राघव को भी बोलने दो, then we'll come back to you. One second. One second. Let Raghav respond and then I'll come back to you. Raghav.
Look, Rahul, first of all, the world knows that, and certainly India knows that the government of India went on this indiscriminate export spree and gave precedence to global goodwill for the Prime Minister and vaccine diplomacy over lives of Indians. We, from the very first day, have been demanding vaccine universalization and vaccine nationalism. By vaccine universalization, we mean that above 18, everyone should get it, no restrictions, no eligibility criteria, vaccinate all and vaccinate them fast. And vaccine nationalism, that is Rashtravad, which BJP claims to own, which is that you first vaccinate Indians first before going on this mass export spree, because 6.5 crore vaccines have been exported to 84 countries in the last few weeks and months, which is an astonishing figure. On the point of oxygen, Rahul, if Sambit Patra, my dear friend, is the official spokesperson of the government of India, giving an assurance that oxygen supply will be restored and no hospital will run out of oxygen in Delhi, then I thank him on behalf of people of Delhi. I thank him on behalf of the government of Delhi as an elected representative, as an MLA and as a spokesperson. I completely thank him that he has assured us of oxygen supplies. Until now, we haven't received any assurances from the government of India. This being the first on India Today, I urge you to run a breaking news on your channel that Government of India assures through Sambit Patra, the Delhi government, that oxygen will not run out and oxygen supplies will most certainly be restored.
Let's build on that charge that in this second wave of COVID, your government's been caught flat-footed and has been consistently taking the wrong calls. If vaccine diplomacy was so important, why have we stopped it? If we saw and data internally much earlier than external data said that there are variants of the virus which could spread really fast, why were we trying to act like global heroes and send the vaccines off? And if that wasn't a wrong call then, why have we stopped it now? Why are you again and again being found to be late on the curve rather than one step ahead of the curve, which is what is supposed to be your government's USP, that you are decisive, that you are capable administrators when we needed to see decisiveness, when we needed to see the administrative abilities. I'm afraid that we've been let down.
See, Rahul, in contrary, I would say that as far as the vaccine drive of our country is concerned, it is one of the best vaccine drives of the world, and in fact the world agrees to it. It's not that I as a spokesperson of Bharatiya Janata Party is saying so. The world over, there is an applause for the vaccine drive of India, which is one of the most difficult tasks across the globe. Secondly, as far as the requirements of the various vaccine companies, both leading vaccine companies are concerned, till yesterday, in fact, the opposition parties were criticizing us. But look, yesterday 3,000 crore to Serum Institute and 1,500 crore to Bharat Biotech. It's a big step, in fact. 35,000 crore for the vaccination.
Many weeks after they asked for it, sir.
Lastly to say that
Sir, Dr. Patra, the companies have been asking for this money as a grant, not as an advance, many months ago. The US, as part of Operation Warp Speed, gave money to pharma manufacturers, underwrote the risk. Whereas in India, you've been giving very limited demand orders which doesn't allow the companies to have adequate cash flow reserves to be able to scale up manufacturing.
Rahul,
Again and again you've been caught behind the curtain. Why don't you compare your actions with those of the US or the UK government? Yes.
No, Rahul, astonishingly, in fact, despite the fact that we had a robust vaccine rollout, despite the fact that there was no dearth of vaccine, in fact, humongous amount of vaccine wastage. Why? Why vaccine hesitancy and vaccine wastage? Because it was not, in fact, propagated by most of the chief ministers in a way that it should have been.
Can I respond to
Why
this?
Maharashtra was lagging behind? Why Maharashtra was lagging behind is my question. What was Rajasthan government doing is my question. And most importantly, those pointing fingers towards vaccine diplomacy. You need raw materials from world over. You need raw materials and help from the world over. And if you in fact go out and help the other countries in the time of need, not on the cost of in fact cutting supplies to your country, why should we be wary about that? This is how the world functions.
Rahul,
Give and take, it's a barter system. They give you the raw material, you have to supply them with vaccine. We have to stand with each other in this time of global pandemic. And remember, it was never at the cost of India. Remember, initially in case of hydroxychloroquine also, these unfounded allegations were thrown at Mr. Modi and our government. But look, was there a dearth of hydroxychloroquine any time? Never. So for God's sake, let's not spread these canards that there would be vaccination shortage. There is no shortage.
Okay.
Please go to the nearest vaccine center, get yourself vaccinated.
Rahul, may
I want to go across to Rahul Srivastav. He's our National Affairs Editor. Prime Minister Modi speaks in 5 minutes from now. Lots of people tuning in. Rahul's been working the phones, speaking to people in government. Rahul, your best sense of what the Prime Minister is going to focus on?
Now, what we are told is that the Prime Minister will be speaking live at 8:45 p.m. and it will be from his Lok Kalyan Marg residence. The two bits of information which have come is that one, he is going to reassure the public that the government is sensitized about the crisis and a war footing effort is on at a war footing on all fronts: oxygen, remdesivir, and all the other elements required, beds. Also, the second very important element is that the new format of vaccination drive. The Prime Minister is going to assure that there is no shortage. In fact, there is one very interesting element within the government that even for today, for example, we had 259,000 cases. That means something close to 180 cases per minute in the country. The capacity to deliver vaccines is nearly 1 crore. There have been only 32 lakh. So only 32% of the capacity of vaccination has been utilized. So the assurance would be from the Prime Minister that the country has adequate supplies and availability at 70,000 odd centers for vaccination, and people, there should be no panic. Under the new format, the Prime Minister is going to tell that now the states can decide who to give vaccination to, and also they can decide for the pricing and other elements for this. So the Prime Minister is also going to outline how the new format in terms 18 to 45 category and 45 and above category by the center, all that is going to work out.
Okay, thanks Rahul Srivastav. We'll come back to you for more later. Dr. Patra, here's the harsh reality which you will not admit on television and neither can you afford to. But this address to the nation, and the Prime Minister is one of our best public communicators in modern politics. This particular address to the nation should have happened many weeks ago. And while he will say what he will and he will try and assure people that he will be on top of the situation, if elections hadn't been happening and if you weren't so busy in collecting crowds for your massive rallies in West Bengal, your government would have paid more attention on the COVID situation. This address to the nation, like we saw last time, after every few days there was an address to the nation. It seemed genuinely like the Prime Minister and the government's top priority. This time, winning West Bengal has been your top priority and not fighting COVID. And this is the unfortunate reality, regardless of how you respond to this question. Dr. Patra?
No, I thought it was the end of the show and you were just concluding. Sorry. In fact, it's almost the countdown for the Prime Minister to address the nation. I firmly believe that the Prime Minister, as the guardian of this country, will have something extremely constructive. We all have to listen to him. We all have to heed what advices he gives out, and we all have to follow as to what he says. And I firmly believe that this second wave, which is of course a bad one, we would be able to combat it with the vaccination drive which has been rolled out. And I firmly believe that despite the fact that we all may belong to different political parties, at the end of the day we all are Indians and we want India to win, and India would win through the vaccination drive. So a big thumbs up for the vaccination drive. Let's listen to the Prime Minister and let's follow what he has to say for us.
Do you have any initial thoughts, since you're involved, Raghav Chadha, so closely with your COVID response task force, how the Delhi government intends to buy vaccines? How many vaccines do you hope to be able to buy? Have you reached out to vaccine manufacturers already? What can we expect from the 1st of May?
Well, Rahul, first of all, a press release was issued by the Government of India yesterday that up to 50% of the vaccine consumption can be directly bought by states from these manufacturers. However, there was only a press release. To the best of my knowledge, the notification or the circular to that effect has not yet come out. We at the Government of Delhi are certainly waiting for that notification. Once that is out, of course, the Government of Delhi will begin procuring on its own, as well as seek assistance and aid from the Government of India. Now you see, Disaster Management Act is in force. There is complete centralization of entire policy decision-making process at the center. The center decides, the states follow. The states have been given extremely little legroom. So therefore, all of us look up to the Honorable Prime Minister, not as a leader of the BJP.
Hello everyone, this is Rahul Gandhi here. Hope you enjoyed this video. For the latest news and analysis, like and subscribe the India Today YouTube channel, and don't forget to press the bell icon to stay updated.